Hello and welcome to a Book a Day podcast. In the last episode, I was discussing this book called Balochistan, Bruised, Battered and Bloodied, written by Francesca Marino. And in that episode, we went through the history of this conflict that has been raging in Balochistan region of Pakistan. We went through how the Baloch people, they had their own distinct identity, and how over centuries that was shaped. And then during the colonial period, what happened there, it got divided into two regions: Balochistan in Iran, and then in Pakistan, which was newly formed after the British left the subcontinent in 1947. And then further, because of certain policies of the state of Pakistan, uh, along with the historical challenges, the region has been quite isolated, and people have faced trouble uh, when it comes to assimilating with the state of Pakistan. So that's where we were, the challenges. And now let's come to the present day situations and what's going on there. So, this is the second part of the book where the author talks about the present day challenges and how really the militancy started. So, the first major militant movements, they were prevalent during the 1970s, where Baloch People's Liberation Front that existed. But then over years, many other fronts, many other militant groups, they came into being. And especially during the year of 2002, when General Pervez Musharraf, he was the president of Pakistan, then things got really worse. So what really happened during that period was some of these sardars, some of these tribal leaders, they or their sons, they came into politics and they won certain elections, but they soon realized that those elections, they were not really valued in the state of Pakistan. In fact, many of them were jailed, some of them were even killed. So that really led to this formation of Baloch Liberation Army, which is a group, a militant group, still active in Pakistan, of course, in the Balochistan region. And it has been active in the last 20-25 years. That, along with another group, which is called Baloch Students Organization. So that has been quite a headache for the state of Pakistan. Because what has happened over the years, many of Baloch students, they have joined this organization called Baloch Students Organization, and then they get into the politics, they get into some of these separatist movements, and eventually some of them are really discontented. They end up joining the Baloch Liberation Army, and that's really what the state doesn't want. So what has happened in that case is the state has also gone after the students organization, and once again that has fueled more anger among the local people there, because if you're targeting students, they are disappearing, some of them are getting killed, some are getting jailed. That's not really anybody would want. But then that is the real tragedy. So that's why a lot of Baloch people, they hesitate when it comes to sending their kids to universities, because they fear that if the kids, they end up joining some kind of political groups, or let's say they are being seen alongside certain political groups, or in fact they are not doing anything, sometimes what happens is they're just there and they're still targeted by the state or the state agencies. So that gap between the Baloch people and the state of Pakistan, that feeling of distrust that has risen continuously. And on the other hand, that's a major problem for the state, because earlier, what used to be the case, that um, a lot of these people, protesters, they used to come from tribal background. Many of them were tribal leaders. Uh, they participated in violent and militant attacks. So dealing with them only required force. And although it was challenging, but it wasn't challenging to that extent. Now, the new crop of these young people, they are really educated, they are politically aware, they're kind of intellectuals. So dealing with them, especially in today's world, when they have communication media with them, they can tweet, they can reach out to media from all over the world. Many even travel to different parts of the world. Then dealing with those people becomes a challenge. And that's really what has happened. But even then, you would expect the state to um, be a little kind or a little more tolerant towards these group of people who are more sophisticated, protesting within the um, framework of the constitution. But hasn't happened. The state has been a little foolish in that sense, and it has struck with the hammer. What that really means is that a lot of these students, a lot of these young people who were earlier inclined to protest peacefully, are then encouraged to join those militant groups. And that is the reason why you see a lot of militant attacks, a lot of um, terrorism related activities in Balochistan and even sometimes outside it, because these people who don't see any other way to express their protest, express their anger, or participate in politics, and they are left with no choice but to join these groups. And as I said, the main group among them is Baloch Liberation Army, but there are also some other groups as well. And even though most of these terror organizations or militant organizations like the BLA, Baloch Liberation Army, they are banned by many countries, including the United States, so they don't get a lot of funding from the outside. Still, within the country, they have established their network to such an extent that they can still run their operations, they can still recruit new people and carry on with their attacks. So on one side, you have this picture that groups like Baloch Liberation Army, they are carrying on their attacks. On the other side, you have the Pakistani state, which is really skeptical of these Baloch people, young Baloch students who are participating in political activities. So a lot of times what happens is, because in these countries, as you will see, the intelligence network or the police and the overall security establishment, it's not that sophisticated. They are not able to precisely identify who is behind which operation, who is doing what. So what they do is they en masse pick out people and sometimes jail them, sometimes those people get disappeared and found out dead many years later. So those are the kind of things that the state has been doing, and which further alienates the Baloch people. And what has happened over the years is thousands of young Baloch people have gone missing, and there's no record of them. So you'll find a lot of protests in Pakistan led by some of these Baloch leaders that revolve around this idea that missing person protests or missing person march, they keep happening. These people keep asking that where are those people who got disappeared. in hundreds and thousands of numbers, and the state has no answer. No answer is given to them. And sometimes silence is the answer. So, pretty much, uh, we know what happened to them. A lot of those, they died in extrajudicial killings. And it's almost certain that many of the people who have gone missing, they would never return home. And in fact, very few of those who return after gone missing for a long time, they return with a lot of severe physical and mental torture, and they're not allowed to speak up again. So that's the kind of stalemate we have. On the one side, the state is hell bent on punishing these people who are sometimes trying to separate themselves from the state, sometimes trying to raise their voice, sometimes trying to question the politics. And on the other hand, it's the never ending discontent and anger among these people. And there is no way, you see, where the conversation is taking place. There's no such bridge, you see, um, where two people, two groups could come together, could heal their wounds, could talk about potential opportunities to work together and negotiate their terms, what one group wants, how the other group can help them. There's no such negotiation going on, and there's no such hope of that. So while a lot of people in Balochistan, they do hope, they have this kind of strange kind of hope, and it's been a long hope, to be fair, because for centuries they have fought for their struggle for their independence. They have never got it. Very short period in history they have existed as a separate kingdoms, but other than that, they have fought a lot of wars with the invading powers, with the colonialists, and most of the time they have faced disappointments, and that's what they're facing right now. So they still have that hope, but maybe they might have some kind of freedom or independence in future. But when you see the size of the state, the kind of opposition they have in front, it seems unlikely. And that's where we are currently. And then we come to the third section of the book, which talks about neocolonialism and the new Silk Road. What this section really talks about is how China is trying to re-establish its old Silk Road through its Belt and Road Initiative, and part of that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor that goes through a lot of this road, a lot of this passage goes through the region of Balochistan. Now, what's going on there is you have to understand the geopolitics. China is trying to revive the old silk routes through which it can capture a hell lot of markets from east to west, eventually ending in Europe. And through sea, it wants to reach through Indian Ocean to Africa, and through land, it goes through Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then to Central Asia and Europe. Essentially, it's trying to find different ways to capture a lot of resources in the world and how they get transported in different parts of the world, and to control that trade. That's the idea. And that's where China comes into the picture, because Pakistan over the decades had faced a lot of economic challenges, and China, which was looking to expand its reach, decided to invest in the region of Balochistan, where a lot of things were established, like a port of Gwadar that was established, and then there were a lot of coal powered projects to create electricity. Then there were a lot of roads and highways. That network was built. So what really was happening in all these years was China was investing its money, and once again, it was adding to the frustration of the Baloch people, because the idea here, the Chinese idea here, was to capture the land, to capture the resources, and also use its money to influence the region. At the same time, what happens is when China invests in these projects, it brings its own labor a lot of times. In certain cases, what happened in Balochistan, that the other parts of Pakistan, laborers from those regions came to Balochistan, and the local people, they didn't get anything. People who are sitting on top of this really rich land, rich in terms of minerals, rich in terms of gas or oil, in fact, they are not getting anything. In fact, most of the gas that Pakistan gets, it comes from the Balochistan, and the gas gets transported to different provinces. But the people who live there, actually, they don't get anything. They don't even have any say in these resources. So these resources are being extracted, but then they are not getting anything. And with the influx of Chinese people coming in, more and more Chinese people are coming in, and of course the state of Pakistan, it provides their security. These people, they get displaced and they don't get any economic benefits. So it's more like the neocolonialism. It's very similar, just like the East India Company of the British. This is the new East India Company, where Chinese companies, they are investing their money, they are moving in, they are controlling resources, they are deciding the politics and economics of the region, and people are increasingly becoming frustrated, angry with the whole idea. So on the one side, you have China and the state of Pakistan, they are colluding, and they are coming together, and Baloch people feel they are disenfranchised. On the other hand, there are powers like, say, United States, which would like to counter China, or India, which would like to counter China as well. They would like to support Balochistan, and that's what Pakistan has been claiming, that these are the powers, that they are meddling in the internal affairs of Pakistan, and they are funding these Baloch people. And you can see there might be some truth in it. So these two key groups, one is China, on the other hand maybe United States and India, these two groups are fighting their battle in Balochistan. And obviously the people of Balochistan, they don't have much of an option. If they were to fight who is oppressing them, whether the state or the Chinese, they need help wherever it comes from. If it comes from US, so be it. So that's what they are doing. And even though it feels really tragic, they don't have any other option. So they're kind of stuck in this game of geopolitics. And the geopolitics is being played on their land, and they're suffering at the hands of it. And there seems no end to it. The only way out could be if the state was willing to sit with them, negotiate with them, willing to admit its own mistakes, willing to work with these people, give them rights, give them facilities, help them out. But that's not been happening. The other option is something that many in the Pakistani politics, they have hinted, that they are just going to go all out attack on this, which would lead to a kind of genocide. That is, you kind of wipe out all those people who are protesting in whichever way they're protesting. It doesn't matter. We need to get rid of dissenting voices. And once you get rid of a significant population of dissenting voices, there won't be much of protest there. So that's the other idea. The first idea is to negotiate, work it through politics. That seems unlikely given how things have worked out so far. And the other idea, which seems more likely would involve a lot of bloodshed, a lot of battles, um, the army going all out attack on these groups, and due to which a lot of civilians would also suffer. But that seems more likely. What would United States do? Now, given Trump being the president, you don't expect too much interference from United States either. What would China do? I don't think China would like to side by the Baloch people. So clearly, you know which way the tide would turn. But that's really the tragedy of it. And whether we like or not, this is how it seems it's going to be. So let's wait and watch, and let's raise our voices wherever we can on the right side of the history, and hopefully the future will turn out to be less gloomy than we anticipate it to be. So thank you for listening. I'll catch you with another book next time. Thank you very much.